Russian man like inside the dark, call me Bill Snatcher. Just the brother for the rapture. I hang glide, holding on strong, hard to capture. Extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a garden and start killing. It's manifesting. The God's work like appliances, dealing in my sleep like a lot.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a follow-up to Boruto chapter 67. Now, as we saw in the last chapter, just when it appeared that Naruto was on the verge of a major mental collapse, Boruto is brought back from the dead, and we learned that this is because Momoshiki sacrificed a chance to revive into Boruto's body by converting the remaining 18% of his genetic material to rebuild Boruto's heart and rebuild his destroyed lungs. Now, this has led to a lot of people making the comparison that Boruto and Momoshiki are going to be best friends forever now. They're going to be sharing Thunder Burgers, and Boruto's going to cure the darkness in Momoshiki's soul the same way that Naruto did for Kurama, which would be in line with the typical shonen cookie cutter friendship bonds that we normally see in gateway shonen such as Boruto. Now, I'm not here to dispute any of that, at least not right now. However, I do want to address why Momoshiki's decision to revive Boruto is not only good for Momoshiki's character, but also was the best option to revive Boruto and the major ramification that this will have with Boruto in the future, in particular when it comes to the Jougan Eye, which some fans refer to as being the pure eye. Now, starting things off, Momoshiki choosing to revive Boruto does the one thing that a lot of people who've made complaints about Boruto as a series have all wanted, which is it gave an additional layer to one of the antagonists of the story. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying I agree with this notion that the antagonists don't have layers. That's another video in of itself. This moment for Momoshiki should make some of the detractors please. We can take this moment with Momoshiki and we can now chart his character from where we were first introduced to him, and we can move the needle a little bit further to the right as a result of this, and we get a glimpse into his character and we see a different side of it. When we were first introduced to him in 2015 via the Boruto movie, it was pretty clear that Masashi Kishimoto and Ukyo Kodachi, the two co-writers for the movie, what it was that they were going for at the time. Momoshiki was meant to represent what Boruto could have become if he continued going down the route of seeking power via shortcuts and not embracing the hard work and trials and tribulations that a ninja has to undergo. For the most part, this has still remained true to an extent in the Boruto anime and manga, though the movie and the movie novelization do a better job of hammering this home. However, the point still stands is that there is some common ground between these two characters whose souls are now interconnected. Momoshiki has only thought of himself up to this point, following the laws of the clan for the clan's law of transference of power and finding the shortest path forward to gain power. In the movie, the extension of the Otsutsuki lifespan was revealed to have come from consuming chakra pills, which were called immortality pills. In the Boruto anime and manga, we learned that the Otsutsuki cheat death via the karma seal, implanting them on unfortunate souls, rewriting their genetic code with the Otsutsuki DNA of the Otsutsuki that gave them the karma, and then they resurrect into that vessel once the vessel hits 100% extraction. For Momoshiki, this was a way of life for an entire millennia. To him, humans and humanoid creatures were only nourishment for the chakra fruit that he hoped to cultivate on whatever planet he was on. However, up until this point in time, we haven't seen this current side of Momoshiki that we currently do, which is that Momoshiki, for the very first time, has shown us that he experiences true fear. Now, this is different from what we saw during the Naruto and Sasuke versus Momoshiki fight. In the movie novel, Momoshiki refers to the two of them as being collectively his equals in power, even though they were fatigued, but their fighting spirit as shinobi and their teamwork was too much for him to overcome. In the manga and the anime, Momoshiki was less desperate than he was in Masashi Kishimoto's version of the story, and more so, he was annoyed with the constant pressure that Naruto and Sasuke placed onto him, evident when he broke out of Sasuke's Shibaku Tensei. When Boruto was about to hit him with the Rasengan, we saw a glimpse of that fear, but Momoshiki still had karma as an ace in his hole. So in the back of his mind, there was always a contingency plan. However, when he revived Boruto, everything changed. For the first time, we saw Momoshiki was actually afraid of death, true death, with no means of being revived. He didn't want his soul to cease to exist like Ishiki's had. Momoshiki wanted to continue to linger inside of Boruto because what waited for him in the great beyond was something that even Momoshiki feared. It was an unknown territory he didn't want to explore. While it was mutual survival, Momoshiki wanted to save Boruto solely so his soul can continue to coexist inside of Boruto. It was a glimpse into fear that very few Otsutsuki have shown in the series. Kaguya showed intense fear at the thought that Momoshiki and Kenshiki were coming for, so much so that her own son Hamura could sense the fear that existed inside of her when she took over his body, which it should be noted the anime included Urashiki in the sequence as well. For the first time, Momoshiki came off as human, which is what any good author would want for the story. At the end of the day, your story and its characters should be a reflection of what you as the author are trying to say about what it means to be human in the human experience, which goes beyond that of plot and goes beyond that of character arcs. For Momoshiki, this was something was needed for this part of the story. However, for the purpose of a narrative construction, this was also essential because all the other revival options for Boruto were going to be painful. At least painful for the fans of the series. In Naruto, every revival from death comes at the cost of something. Oftentimes, it's life, and in this instance, that cost is still being upheld. Even though Momoshiki technically didn't die, when Momoshiki revived Boruto from death, it came at the expense of him not being able to resurrect using Boruto's body, and we now know from the manga that Momoshiki only had Boruto as a vessel, which is very important. This is it for Momoshiki. He can never resurrect using Boruto again. This was a great decision because while it did lean very heavily on the fact that when it comes to the karma, there is so much that isn't known in this universe, which essentially gets the story of Tabula Rasa, which for those of you guys who are curious, a Tabula Rasa is a blank slate. And basically this Tabula Rasa allows for the story to write itself out of a corner like it did here with Boruto's death. And it also allows for there to be a bit of a trade-off for Boruto being brought back from the dead. Which brings us to the third point, and what you guys are ultimately here for, which is the birth of the Jougan. Boruto is now 100% Otsutsuki due to Momoshiki's data conversion being used to restore his heart and lungs. Boruto is now 100% Otsutsuki, which means that it's going to be very important going forward when it comes to the Jougan. We know that Toneri activated Boruto's Jougan prematurely, which means that Boruto always had the potential to unlock that eye. However, he only did so because he needed Boruto to deal with the creature that Kaguya created, Nue, which is currently in Sumere's control right now. Toneri said that the time for Boruto's Jougan to awaken on its own is still a ways away, and we've heard very similar language from Momoshiki in the past, which is the fact that the time when Boruto's blue eyes would take everything away from him was still a ways away. That is why I've always said that Boruto had two prophecies, and it was going to be dependent on the decisions that he made. One where he could lose it all, and one where he could become the Star of Hope. According to Momoshiki, the time for Boruto to lose everything is almost at hand, which, given the timing, could also mean that Boruto's Jougan is approaching in conjunction with this as well, because when it comes to hope will be needed to stop the coming calamity that Boruto will face. Jougan was stated to be a unique dojutsu that's rare to the Otsutsuki clan, but its power is frightening and it's an ancient power, one where there's not much information known. In the manga, the pupil is barely visible, but in the anime, it's a lot easier to distinguish due to the black sclera in the back of the eye. This was an eye that needed Otsutsuki power to prematurely awaken, can now be manifested once Boruto learns to turn the key that he's been given via a body that is now 100% Otsutsuki. According to one of the animators for Boruto, back in 2017, the eye was still being figured out by the time of Boruto episode 15's creation, but what we do know is that the eye itself is connected to the Otsutsuki dimensions, which in hindsight we now know is an important thing moving forward because Sasuke has lost the ability to access those dimensions now that his Rinnegan's been destroyed. However, now that Boruto is 100% Otsutsuki, in theory, he has the key that is needed to unlock the door to the Pure Eye, which in turn could be the moment that Boruto has his Jiraiya moment. Jiraiya was told that he would need to make a decision, and Boruto currently has two prophecies, and just as Jiraiya's decision was one that linked his two students, the same can be true for Boruto. His two prophecies could be linked to his Jougan, one where he could be the Eye of Hope, and the other where Boruto might end up taking everything that he holds dear. However, I want to know from you guys, what do you guys think about Momoshiki reviving Boruto and about this being a segue to a future Jougan awakening? Let me know down in the comment section below. So always, guys, like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.